painted lady romped home in the third.
Yes! Oh, and that's a bad miss.
Oh, yes, he thought that was in. That is a shame. Look at the way Jimmy Logan's shoulders are sagging as he retreats from the table.
Another blow to the people's favourite in what has been, as we all know, a very difficult 8 or 9 years for Jimmy.
Well, he's certainly been struggling for form.
He's been struggling for money, is what he's been struggling for, Peter. And he's not earning any sitting there watching a much younger man clear up.
Yes, young Terry Stevens there, potting away like the whole world's made of pocket.
While Jimmy there is out of pocket in more ways than one. Yes, that was a good one. Oh, and that's a bad miss.
Well, that was a cruel miscue. And as the cue ball careers into the black, Jimmy must be wishing that his bank balance would do something similar.
Yes. This is a tough game. Jimmy knows that, but what on earth possessed him to think that horse racing was going to be any easier?
He called it an investment, but in reality, he was just hanging around Ladbrokes when he should have been practicing his long pots.
And the results are there for all to see, on his careworn face, with its bad wig that no longer matches his remaining hair. Oh, and that's a bad miss.
And a bit of a first for a quarter-final at the Crucible here, in that both Lawrence Caswell and indeed his opponent, Mike Sylvester, are both, with the best will in the world, queer.
Well, Peter, I'm not sure that's quite the PC term.
It is, Ted. I've checked.
Well, I'm going to call them homos to be on the safe side.
And as Mike Sylvester bends over to break off now, Ted, what do you think will be going through his opponent's mind?
I can't say that, can I? Oh, and that's a bad miss. Viewers in the north may be experiencing some sound interference, for which we apologise.
What about viewers in the south?
We haven't got any viewers in the south, have we?
Yes, well, it's not the highest standard of play this afternoon, but it is respectable.
Yes, it is perfectly respectable, and these are two perfectly respectable young men. They were born a certain way, presumably, or perhaps they were given dollies as children. Who knows how this happens, but now they've just got to get on with it.
Well, they do say to you these days, Ted, that if you do find yourself of the queer or bent way of thinking, then the best thing to do is just come right out and say it, and don't, whatever you do, spend 42 years living a lie.
Those years weren't wasted for you, Peter. You won the UK Championship twice.
I know.
But what I didn't realise is these guys, these gay guys, they won't just come up and do it to you if you don't want them to. As I know many in the sport fear they will.
In jokes, Ted, in the film Deliverance, but not in the Crucible Bar.
Oh, and that's a bad miss.
Well, Lawrence Caswell has left a massive opening there for such a potent cumin as Mike Sylvester.
And while we're on the subject of gay sex, I've never discussed on air with you before, Peter, the reasons behind your own decision to come out as a gaybo and how that's made you feel.
Well, Ted, it's as simple as this. You get to a certain stage in your life when you realise that your wife's about to go public, and so you think to yourself, I might as well cash in on the exclusive before she does.
That's very moving. Because of course, it caused a crisis in my own life. I was not, for many years, a friend of the gays. I didn't perhaps understand it as well as I do now.
You were worried about the booth, weren't you, Ted?
If I'm honest, Peter, that was the nub of it. It's not a big booth, this our booth, but as you pointed out to me over that drink that I finally allowed you to buy me, if you'd managed to keep your hands off me for 18 years, why on earth would you jump me now? Particularly when I be on me guard.
And we laughed, didn't we, Ted?
We laughed, and I think that was the turning point. I thought that man, Peter, has been to 3 out of my 4 weddings. Best man at the last 2. I've been to his wedding, albeit we now know that was a lie. Anyway, I have, in my own way, loved this man. That's not a word I'm afraid of. We talked about what I was afraid of and established... and established that you wouldn't do it to me. So I realised that just because my friend and long-standing professional colleague has announced that he's gay, this is no time for me to turn me back on him.
Thank you, Ted.
Particularly in the booth.